Hello guys, what's up? Luke Hodge here. Well, as you guys know, I haven't put a video out for a while, but there's a new introduction to the channel. This is my Peugeot 208 1.2 petrol, and this is my first car that I have now owned for just a little over a year. And I thought I'd put this kind of review / first car video out because, for one, it is very cheap to run compared to what a lot of young people buy, as one a Corsa or Fiesta. So I'll just quickly put in some running costs here and now before I forget. So I bought this car a year ago with 30,000 miles on the clock, and I only paid £3,800 for this car. Now I did get a good deal on it because it was previously my dad's car, so if I sold this right now I would actually make a profit, because if I sold this now I'd get about 4,000, meaning the car's now got 45,000 on it, meaning I basically done 15,000 miles in this car for free for a year, and I could actually make a £200 profit if I sold it now. So it's basically a win-win situation if I decide to do that right now. With insurance cases, I've owned for the first year it was only £1,100 without a black box, which is a very rare deal for something like this, considering that normally insurance is normally about that if you have a black box, but luckily I managed to look out on that, so that was a good deal right there. Road tax as well is really cheap on this one, as you don't see it in even modern cars, let's say in the last year or so, as this has only £20 road tax. Now what that means is you can only pay £20, but that's for a year. The newer version of this, and the last version of this body design, it has had a facelift since then, for the last year or two, that you now have to pay £150 road tax on these. So this year is particularly special for the 2014 and 14 and early 15s, and I think the last bits of the early first introduction of the facelift. But more on that later in a certain fact. But there's the straight out of the box, there's the running costs and how much it was to buy, insure, tax, and running costs. Because of the mileage I've done, it's a bit hard to tell, but I normally average about 45 mpg out of this, meaning roughly about 350 miles a tank. If you're maybe a little less heavy-footed as I am, you might be able to get about 400 miles. So really cheap to run on these. Obviously, it's not worth me telling how much it is to fill up the tank, because fuel prices are always changing. But don't get me wrong, 350 miles to 400 miles, you can definitely get your money's worth out of petrol in this. So as it's worth, I'll give you a quick tour around in the next clip, and an interior tour, and tell you what is really good about this car. So another thing as well is modifications. Now there's still some small little modifications / repairs, because this car is now heading up to 8 years old, so there are some little things with it, not as in mechanically but appearance. So for example, the alloy wheels might look good from here, quite shiny, but the paint is flicking off in certain bits, so all 4 alloys will eventually need a respray and a refurb. But other than that, the wear and tear on this vehicle has been just fine. A couple of other things as well people like to do on these cars is have like the wind reflexes, so they're like little plastic bits over the window. You can crack the window down and have fresh air blowing in, and it can be like pissing it down with rain outside. And the other things that I want to show is towards the rear, so I'll show that in just a second. Now I have to change angle for one main reason. So the other upgrade, that is a factory upgrade as such. These rear lights here aren't the original ones that came with this car. They are still the same shape. Basically, these are from the Mark 228, meaning they are an all-red design. The original ones have a kind of, I'll try and insert it in the picture if I can, of what the old ones look like. Basically, they have half silver and half half red, versus this is an all-red and kind of into enclosure versus not a bundle. And as such as well, these light-up stripes are much bigger, as in the fact I can show you now, because luckily you can have a headlight assist button on the key fob. And as you can see, they are quite trendy for what is a factory-fitted headlight. These are quite a cheap upgrade to do if you're around, as you can see. I paid £75 for a set of these, so 2 in a box. They are second-hand, but they are good second-hand units. And overall, I think it makes the appearance of the car look much nicer than the old ones, as these stripes, when these stripes are on the older ones, they're not as aggressive looking as these. So if you're into buying one of these, I'd highly recommend doing this upgrade. One of the other modifications that I've done to this, and I wanted to change the angle just because it's a bit more up close so you can't really see it from the other angle, is the aerial upgrade. So now basically that means this is a lot shorter than the stock one. The stock one is about this high, but I think looks ridiculous on such a small car like this. Now, this is all personal preferences. It's a nice little design, but if you listen to FM radio a lot, I can say one thing is I could probably deter you saying FM radio with the short aerial is rubbish. If you like listen to DAB radio stations, for example, and the signal's good in your area like it is mostly around here, then I do recommend it. But if you like to listen to specific FM radio stations, then this is a modification that looks good, but though in functionality can be a bit off and on depending on where you live. So that's one thing to bear in mind. Alrighty, and just to finish off the outside before we move into the inside, I thought it'd be worth paying attention to the actual engine itself. This is the 1.2 litre. Now, before I go into anything else, some people, if you read the Owners Club review, there is half people have this problem, half people don't. It's one of those iffy ones, and that is there is an oil consumption problem with these engines. They're not massive, like you're chucking oil in every couple of miles. They normally have to do it every couple of thousand miles. But I want to put that out there, worth knowing, is if you do buy one of these, you may need to top up the oil every now and again. It is common for these 1.2s. If you go for any of the bigger engines sizes than this, even the road tax will be more, and possibly insurance, you won't probably suffer with this problem. But it'd be worth just putting it out there so you guys are aware of it, that some cars suffer from this problem, some don't. Even when mine does suffer with this problem, it is very minor and it has not become much of a problem. But it'd be worth just putting it out there so you people know. And just to finish it off, we'll get it, I suppose, just to kind of show that this engine is okay even with this kind of problem, is I'll start it up, give some revs because obviously you can hear it, and then we'll, and I can tell you that this is definitely not a problem with this engine, and it does run absolutely fine even with this small interior problem. I'd like to also put out there, these engines are generally quite ticky, being a 1.2. 3-cylinder mainly, and that is normal with these little cars, so just going to put that out there before I start revving. But as you can see, it still sounds very healthy for one of these 1.2 litres, so there is no worries, but I thought I'd just put it out there and prove this engine is okay. But otherwise than that, it is starting to get bizarrely a little bit slaty in here, so I suppose with that note, we'll show you what it's like in the inside. So okay, now we're inside the car because it is a bit cold outside as well. It'll be worth now talking about what you get inside this vehicle and what the driving kind of positions and so it's like. So in this car, it's not the cheapest version you can buy. I have done a couple of modifications there, so a leather steering wheel upgrade. Now these does come with quite a couple of these options in these cars, but the very base like this one is, this is a 2-weight active, means you generally get a plastic gear knob and a rubber steering wheel. Now this is very easy to change over, like I've done. I put a second-hand leather steering wheel in, and it does improve the appearance and feel of the car when you're driving it, plus a leather gear knob that I have put right here. The other thing as well is the touchscreen, if you would like to focus on that. Now these ones for this year, you did get touchscreen, and if you had the very, very base model, I mean no extras whatsoever, no alloys like this. This did come with the alloys from factory. If you didn't have that and it was the cheapest one, you'd have steel wheels and you wouldn't have a touchscreen, and it would literally be an ancient CD player. But with this though, because it's the kind of low, even when it was the cheapest model, because it was the next one up as so in the active range, you had the alloy wheels, you had the touchscreen radio, and a couple of little bits, like some of them bizarrely didn't even come with aircon, so it'd be worth putting it out there. Plus this one has had another specific upgrade that I'm going to show you right now through this radio. Now my phone isn't connected at the moment because I'm actually using it currently. I've done another upgrade on this that allows you to have Apple CarPlay. Now it'll be worth putting it out there, this year of car does not come with Apple CarPlay. It is really easy though, for the most part, to retrofit into this vehicle. As such, if I go into menu here and click on connected services, as you can see, Apple CarPlay and also MirrorLink. It's like a Android version of Android Auto, but in some other form. It's like an older version of it before Android Auto was released. But if my phone was connected, all I need to do is click on Apple CarPlay and it will bring it on the screen. Like, obviously it's not connected at the moment, so it's bringing up a message to basically plug in the phone. But other than that, the infotainment system is really good, easy to use. If you want to go to radio, you can go to here. If you want to change radio station, you can otherwise click on the list and you'll get a whole load of them here. Or if you want to go to presets, you can click on stored and you can choose from any of your presets. And if you click that button as well, you can also click a station. So if I click that, if I want to now put capital in capital, funny enough, I can just click yes and it will save the radio station. But other than that, the factory audio system is generally quite a good sound, even when this is kind of upgraded. Basically, Apple CarPlay, to get it in this car, you've got to get it from the facelift version, but it is really easy to swap over. The only thing you need to do once you've installed it is go to your local Peugeot dealer and get them to program the new stereo that you've just put in. Other than that though, it does definitely make the touchscreen a lot more usable than what it was before, because otherwise you've literally got DAB, radio station, USB, but you've got no actual picture you can put on, versus when you do this upgrade, you do get those extra things like able to mirror your phone screen. That is definitely useful in this case. Right, well, I've just started the car for this moment, mainly for one reason. Now, this isn't a particular problem for me, but some people argue that the steering wheel, now this is a nice small steering wheel, but because of the way it's angled, sometimes it can block the instrumentation. The steering wheel can block the steering. Now for me, because I sit quite tall and I'm above the steering wheel, it ain't a problem for me, but some people are quite short. Sometimes the top of the steering wheel can block the middle of the instrument cluster, because normally if it's a big steering wheel, you normally look through the steering wheel to see the speed or so on like that. But because this one is kind of in the middle, so for some people that isn't, I don't obviously have a problem with this, but some people say that the steering wheel does block their view of their instrumentation. But for me, it's just fine, and if you're relatively tall, I don't think you will suffer this problem, but it is worth putting it out there. Okay, and back outside again, but it's worth just showing the room space in the boot, because normally little cars don't have big boots, but this is actually surprisingly roomy, as I'll show right now, because mine is literally full of stuff to the point it probably looks almost a bit of a mess in here, but you'll get the point of how big it is just from how much stuff we've got in here. As you can see, loads of room for your shopping bags and your general stuff, like blankets for your dogs so they don't wreck your car, storage stuff for your cleaner stuff if you don't like, let's say, have a shed, so you can put your buckets and stuff in that in like a cubby or whatever. Bear in mind, this cubby here doesn't come with the car, but this extra, but otherwise big roomy space. If you take this out and let's say you want to go on holiday, you can easily get some suitcases in here, no problem. Maybe some two good reasonable size suitcases, but though it might be worth noting, it might give you a bit more space if you take the parcel shelf out, but other than that, quite roomy car, shouldn't have a problem. So for room in the back, normally that's when small cars generally have a problem, when you have loads of room in the front but very lack of space in the back. Now, we can't get a good camera angle to properly show you this, but I have plenty of room in the back. I'm sitting up fully straight and my head is not rubbing against the roof, and I've even got loads of knee space generally quite easily. Like, I don't know if this will pick up very well. If you want to move the camera, that's fine. This is kind of a bit we do, but as you can see here, plenty of knee room. This seat is pretty much almost all the way back, and I still have plenty of knee room. Plus, there's loads of space down the back as you can see, generally not a problem in this car. So now in the front, for your passenger and kind of driver feel, sitting in the front, there's no problem whatsoever. There's loads of knee room, plenty of space, and when the door's closed, you've got a nice armrest, so it's big enough to lean on. So, as in comfort and stuff like that, not a problem. But I will put it here just before I forget, even it is slightly off topic, maybe not sure. Is the glove box space is very limited in this car for whatever reason. I think it's because of the way it was designed for it being on a left-hand drive, for obviously for mainland Europe, is the fuse box takes up all the glove box space. Now obviously in the European models your glove box is obviously on the other side and it is a lot bigger than this, but because of where the fuse box is located, meaning the glove box is so small, you can just about put like sweets, USB cables and sunglass boxes, but you can't even put the user's manual in the glove box. So if there's something to mention now that isn't good about this car, is glove box space is absolutely rubbish. But other than that, the car itself, comfort and normal usability is not a problem with this car. And there was one thing that I almost forgot to mention about this car is even I've told you about the way that sometimes the steering wheel can block the view of the instrument cluster and many other things. I will mention as well a couple of bits that I can only really show you from this angle is for example, if you've got a really heavy load in the back, or you've got a tow bar fitted to this, let's say you've got a trailer and your back of the car is sagging quite low to the ground, you can also adjust the headlight position. So obviously your headlights are generally dipped when you turn them on. Well, with this little slider here, you can adjust the height of the headlight, and the actual mechanism inside will raise the light upwards so it's not dipping all the way at the ground or shining upwards. So basically you can adjust your headlight height using this toggle right here. Plus there's a couple of other things. So for example, your tyre monitoring system, when your tyres are low, it'll bring up a warning on the dash saying your tyre pressures are low. When you sort it out, if you hold this button down, you can reset the pressure. And child lock, if you've got kids, you can lock the rear back door so only you can open it up from the outside. And one last thing as well that we use now and again, because, well, that's me, isn't it, is traction control. You can turn it on and off. Some cars, believe it or not, don't actually allow you to turn off the traction control without going through the whole head unit or infotainment, whatever the case may be. But if you want, for whatever reason, especially also if you live in Europe or in a snowy climate when generally turning traction control off can help you in the snow, you can easily do it by just tapping the button. And to view MPG, one last thing I almost forgot to mention was if you want to view MPG, you can click on the radio and click on driving, or you can just click the end of the tip of the wiper stalk and it'll show you what your fuel economy is through the infotainment display. But other than that, I think that is pretty much it for the inside. But yeah, pretty much you've got your normal steering controls, power assisted windows all throughout the front, though you still have got the winders in the back. But other than that, I think we have completed the interior tour. So in summary, the Peugeot 208 is a great car for a first car. Like I said, running costs are really good on these. £20 road tax a year. You've got your insurance. I got quoted £1,000 for the first year. Obviously, it is. I'm now in almost 2.5 years in this, but otherwise than that, reliability is fine on these. It's the only problem they've actually had with this that I forgot to mention is temperature sensor, the outdoor humidity thing. Sometimes if it's very wet outside or very cold, sometimes the outdoor temperature sensor sometimes kind of goes a bit nuts, saying reckons it's about 30 degrees outside. But I have got the part to fix that. It just needs to replace a sensor in the mirror and that'll be sorted. Other than that, the oil thing, it's a very little problem. It is obviously sounds like a major problem, but it hasn't been that much a problem, and it is a generally quite a common problem, but it doesn't have any impact of the car whatsoever. As long as you check your oil every 2,000 miles or so, you'll just be just fine. But other than that, I think that is it on this car. Any questions, you can put down in the comments section down below. I know some people, for whatever reason, in their car reviews like to turn off the car comment section, but I will leave it on because as long as I'm not too busy, I will try to reply to them if I can. But other than that, I think that is it. If there's anything I've run through, like I said, put it down in the comments. But other than that, I think that is it. thank you so much for watching. Any questions, like I said so many times now, comments down below. But other than that, comment, like and subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video. One thing I will mention is if you're also interested in modifications on this car, subscribe, because there are a couple of other little things that I think I still want to do to this car. So keep your eyes out on the channel. Otherwise than that, thanks for watching. Cheers!